and welcome to Sibos 2025 in Frankfurt. I'm Hannah Wallace, and joining me in the Finextra TV studio is Oliver St Clair-Stannard, Payments Vice President, AI Strategy at RedCompass. Oliver, it's great to have you in the studio. Thank you
for having me.
Stepping away from a very busy Sibos, I know you've had an impressive morning already, stepping off stage, doing a talk called From Telex to BBAI. Please tell us more.
So the talk was really looking at the evolution of payments. It used to be payments were sent via these telex machines, and I think some of the people here maybe still of that era where people were typing in individual payments. Obviously this is 40, 50 years ago. Right? And then the industry built payments engines because the volume of payments going through was just too much, it didn't scale. Errors, there were lots of errors. It's probably a term that belongs in the past, but we used to call them fat-fingered payments, where an extra zero would make it on the end. And then, we also had the technology, so the internet came along. So banks started to measure their success in payments through a metric called STP, straight-through processing. So how much of your regular payments flows were going through automatically, untouched by humans. And now we're at a stage where many banks will claim at least it's nearly 100%, right? And so trillions of dollars flowing across the planet every day. But at the same time, the payments modernization side of business, so actually maintaining, updating, upgrading those payments engines, those systems, is done pretty much completely manually. So what we're doing is we're looking at this straight-through processing metric and we're saying, what's the new metric for now? The volume of change, or the pace of change, the velocity of change is increasing dramatically. We have this new technology, AI, and at the same time as the automation is happening through the kind of front end, this technology can really help automate the change process in the back end.
Well, thank you very much for bringing us up to date. In summary then, what is BBAI? Just to clarify,
Sure.
Why is it so important as well?
So BBAI is a term we're using to say built by AI, so built by artificial intelligence. I think BBAI sounds a little bit like a robot of Star Wars, but I guess you could look at it as software straight-through processing. So how much and how do you measure the impact of generative AI in your efficiency gains, in your systems, and in the accuracy and the improvements you're making? And some of these payments modernization projects, they take years, they're very high stakes. We see what happens when they go wrong, where there are payments outages, and there's been a lot this year in the UK especially. And we want to help banks understand and measure that change. So BBAI is a rate, it's a percentage of how much of your change process is done by AI. And what that really means is what's been accepted by humans using the AI. So we're asking banks to think about, okay, maybe we're all at 0%. Maybe none of us are using AI and it's all done manually. Let's set ourselves a target as an industry that in 2 years we'll be at 20% built by AI. Very much the same way as straight-through processing. We started at 0 and now we're at nearly 100%. And as the technology evolves, obviously, but as banks also adapt and want to change their systems much more efficiently, they can adopt more and more of AI into the processes to do it.
So you touched on the risks already, which we'll come to in a minute, but first, where are we seeing the most tangible impact of AI? Because there's a lot of talk around it, it's at the heart of a lot of discussions over Sibos, but where is it actually having a practical impact and being helpful?
So it's a great question, and sometimes AI can be seen as a bit of a solution looking for a problem, right? What we do at RedCompass Labs, we work with some of the biggest banks in the world to help them modernize their payment systems, and we're using it to increase or to broaden the way that we deploy our expertise. So we're a very small group of payments experts. There's about 150 of us, and we work across the world. How do we scale the delivery of our expertise? We have all this knowledge, and essentially, we're in the kind of knowledge transfer business. AI enables us to deliver that knowledge to a much wider audience, and it allows us to automate a lot of that project lifecycle. So putting that in practical terms, because that all sounds a bit up in the sky, right? Is we can use AI to capture everything about a project, everything about the knowledge that we are imparting through workshops, through working with our clients, and we can use that AI to iteratively update project artifacts, to iteratively update meeting notes, so that a record, a kind of ledger of the project exists in the AI's context in its memory. At the same time, we built a library of 28,000 payments documents from all across the world, which that AI can then reference in the context of the workshop, of the meeting notes. So essentially, it's able to produce a kind of living repository of that project for that bank, which the bank can query and ask questions and ask it to produce artifacts via their own AI interface, for example, Copilot or GPT Enterprise, whatever the bank's using. So we provide that knowledge layer that's very automated. That does a number of things. It speeds it up, yeah, it can reduce costs, but really it's about accuracy. And with these projects being so complex, that the difference between 99% right and 100% right is catastrophic if it's wrong. Right?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing those examples. As promised, we're going to talk about the risks as well. There's a lot of worry around AI. They may not be needed, but tell us, how can we aim towards a safer future?
So I think there's a whole new branch of kind of compliance, if you want to call it that, that's evolving and evolving really rapidly. And what I found amazing is the banks that we work with across the world, just from talking to them 6 months ago to talking to them today, they are adapting very quickly. And a lot of them have AI governance boards, a lot of them have AI committees, and they're looking at, what's training the model and how is there any bias. But I think fundamentally, the stage AI is at now is it is an assistant to the human. It empowers and it enables the human to do more, to manage more complexity, to be more accurate, as I was talking about. So we have a principle, you've probably heard the term human in the loop, right? Which I think is where we're at now with the technology. Maybe in the future, we'll see difference. We go one step further and we call it expert in the loop. So with our clients, our name is on the output. It's not AI generated output, it's human approved output done by the AI. So, you have to have that accountability. And I think for banks adopting AI internally, it's exactly the same. How do you upskill and train your staff so that they can really get the most out of AI while still remaining accountable for the output themselves? But it's slightly different because what we're doing is not integrating AI into payment flows. We are using the AI to accelerate and to enhance consultants or business analysts or QAs, testers, to actually do their job better. So the risk to the bank's flows and payments processes is very low. I think when you look at other use cases for AI, in reconciliation and in fraud and everything where it is making decisions on behalf of the bank, then if bias starts to creep into the models, it can get, it can be very dangerous.
That's very interesting. So taking all of that into account there, we've touched on a lot there. What is your advice for those who are feeling tepid going forward? What's the next step?
So I'm encouraging, as I said in the talk, I'm encouraging banks to do an experiment internally in a kind of controlled environment. So pick one area on which you're already working. Maybe it's something to do with CBPR Plus or SEPA, direct debit, or one kind of domain. Run it manually, but at the same time, have a little lab and see what you can do to get BBAI to 5%. And we have, as I said in my talk, we have some kind of formula for measuring BBAI and what the rules are and how we can all kind of agree a standard on that. So if you can say my built by AI rate on this project was 20% and we didn't have any reduction in quality, maybe we even had an improvement in quality, that's the first step to then saying to your board or to your management team to say, we've achieved this 20% built by AI rate and it's saved us this much. And it becomes a benchmark then. But at the same time, you've run it manually, so you're not kind of at risk because you've done it, and you can start to do this A/B split test of the competition between the two. So that's really what we want to encourage banks to do, is to start these safe experiments in a kind of clean room, safe environment. We obviously help. We have our own AI solutions, which we work with many banks across the world with. And I think those that do these kind of interesting experiments are the ones who will learn the fastest how they can get the best out of it. And if you accelerate that into the future, these are the ones who have the competitive advantage.
There we go, some sound advice to end on. Oliver, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Such an exciting space. I'm looking forward to seeing more from RedCompass. I'll let you get back out there, but thank you very much.
Cheers, I appreciate it. Thanks.